What are we going to do with him, Josh? Hey,
I reckon we've probably got to start, my man. There's a few people on the
we
call that are
will.
waiting.
There are. Yeah, there's a couple of hundred registered, and I think there's like a couple of hundred registered, and there's groups of teams. And welcome everyone. Well done for getting up. Especially, I was getting messages late last night, Josh, at from my Perth people saying, "Are you serious? It's 7 a.m. tomorrow morning." I'm saying, "Come on, get up, you bloody slack ass!" Because over in New South Wales, it's 10 a.m. The day's half over. So
Oh,
goodness.
mate, it's still early here, brother. I'm not an early morning person at all, but it's good to see everyone. It's a Monday. I remember Mondays, back in my days in real estate, where Mondays, you had either a big weekend or you had open homes and you were super busy, and you wait to Monday. So, mate, let's give them a show.
For sure, bro. And again, I'm loving that we've got because you were telling me about some of your coaching clients, how there's sales teams on, they're in the
Correct.
meeting on the Monday.
Yeah.
Now look, I encourage you guys still get through your open home list, still do your follow up, mind those open home guests for appraisal opportunities, but take notes for the next hour or so because you're going to be getting some real gold. And congratulations if you are watching this and taking some time out of sales meetings and the like. So I'm keeping half an eye on to see if we get analog Adrian on. I hope we do because man, that man's skill set. I tell you, I just to set some scenes because I know a lot of my clients are on who have some limited interaction with yourself and even with Adrian. Even though
Yep.
Adrian has spent significant time on stage with me at some of my events, and I've always seen Adrian as an amazing compliment to my sort of little bit roguish out of the box marketing stuff. Then when combined with Adrian's more logical, practical, pragmatic methodologies and tactics of doing the business, once sort of my marketing-y stuff gets you the opportunity to pitch for the business, then Adrian's stuff helps you win and do the business. So I've always loved working with Adrian because he's a complement to my stuff as opposed to just us both preaching the same thing. But I'm really looking forward to getting to know yourself, man. Isn't it interesting, mate? I'm going to ask you with a quick question because we are running this informally, even though there's some
Yep.
specific things I want to ask of Josh
Yep.
and analog Adrian if he can get on here. So, but the first one I wanted to ask you, mate, is there was 100+ people registered for this. And we only just chucked up a few things on social media, sent out a couple
Yeah.
of emails and things,
Yeah,
but
man.
still only 50 turn up. And it's fascinating that number is pretty consistent with anything that's free. What do you think the difference is in mindset? Is it mindset? Is it attitude? Is it just not wanting it? Is it seeing it real estate as a job, not a career? What's the difference between those who say they want to and then something happens on Monday and they just go, oh, nah. Is there anything practically that you can learn from half the battle may even just be showing up? I don't know.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think, look, real estate, and there's a lot of people on this call that I coach and mentor, and there's a lot of agents on this call that, have worked in my marketplace before, and you've dealt with thousands of salespeople as well. I think salespeople as general, if we're talking, on a broad spectrum, consistency is a big thing for people. Like we'll do this webinar and there's no doubt, and this is sort of a pre-conference webinar where they'll get a little bit of tips here and there, but all the real gold will come out on stage for people that have bought a ticket, bought flights, they booked accommodation, they're committed. Real estate, mate, a lot of people lack consistency. A lot of people say they'll do something. I want to list 10 properties a month. I want to sell 100 properties a year. And then it gets to December and they've only sold 20. They're in debt. They're barely meeting their debit credit target. And that's sales as a whole. People have got to want it. You got to have drive. You got to have goals. You got to have a process. But more than anything, you got to want it. Like you got
Mm.
to have hunger, you got to have energy, you got to show up. It's like the gym. It's like if I didn't feel like going to the gym every single day, I never would go. It's the days when you feel shit and you rock up and you're there and you're like, you know what? I'm here. Let's rock and roll. I might learn something. I might feel a little bit better after it. So
Mm.
I think, yeah, man, half the trick with sales, I'd probably say 80% is attitude. You got the
Mm.
right attitude. You show up, you want to learn, you put ego aside. You'll go further than the person that's got all the talent, but no will.
Oh man, I tell you, living my life almost because when I first started in this coaching thing, because it's weird that when I talk to yourself now, when I talk to multitude of students over the years, I often think and I get told, how come you coach and you don't what, and it's almost like even as a coach, especially when I was a coach, my best year was 380,000, man. Like, so I've never, even my clients like a Chris Gilmore, a Tom Carlin, a Matt Steinway, whomever it might be, they're doing millions. And the way I sort of analyze it is, Michael Jordan's a billionaire. He's the player. But Michael Jordan still has a Phil Jackson, still has a coach. And Phil Jackson goes all right. But when I first got into coaching, here I was up against the people more talented than me. Michael Sheargold, Mark Dwyer, Lee Woodward, all these best of the best of the best. But I tell you, man, what you just said about attitude and wanting it more, that was why now I get spoken about in the same breath as those legends that when I first got in, I deemed myself unworthy to be in the same category as them. And now I'm honored to say I'm almost the old bastard in the room that is where I used to be the young upstart wanting to have a crack at Michael Sheargold. And now I see myself as a peer of his. But
100%, man. Attitude's everything.
Yeah. So that really does bring me to, let me just share my screen. I just whacked a few slides together that kind of made that point maybe a little bit and kind of showed a few ideas about that. And I call it the Pareto principle or, the 95-5 rule that, 5% of the agents make 95% of the money. And
Correct.
and this here, because you're in another category. I've been using this slide for years. That because myself, Glenn Twiddle, as a business person or whatever, I'm somewhere around this 15% who earn a good living, provided they don't screw up. I've had some years where I've been up in the 4%. Sometimes I've had some years where I've been at the top of the 60%. So somewhere around there is where I hover. Most of my students, when they're these legends of the game that I'm honored to have been in business with for all this time, are in the 1%. They're in these ones that are what we call a $1 million agent, where there's this line that's called a $1 million agent. But the average is so low. It's appalling. The best I can find is somewhere between 40 grand and 100 grand is what the average agent earns.
Yeah.
But then when we see you, mate, and this is the first time we've done anything together, this event that you've honored me to come and share some ideas at, and they've got a day with you, a day with Adrian, a day with people that you've associated with. When I see that my students aim for $1 million a year, that's the aim, that's the goal, that's in some cases the dream goal that is it's almost like the dream that they're not going to hit because they don't quite believe it. Yep. And then when I see yourself, mate, this isn't just me just shining, poo up your butt or whatever, you know what I mean? But when I saw 10 million, 10 times what most agents' dream is, that is a whole nother level. Most people will think that can't be done. I remember my friend Chris Gilmore was saying he was accused of making up the stats when he was getting $1 million and a half. And people would say to me, he's full of it, he's full of shit and all of that. And Chris once, he got crappy at me and he said, here, he sent me his group certificate that showed a 7-figure, earnings and that was to him, not gross. That was to him over $1 million. He said, here, whenever you get someone, just shove that up there. Some of the terms he used. You're at another level once again. Now, Chris at the moment is at 5, which is amazing. I mean, it is still levels of performance that are unheard of. And yet, for you guys who are watching this, you guys now get to spend an hour. And again, I promise you, I'm not going to avoid the elephant in the room. We're going to talk about what we've learned, what Josh has learned from, the mistakes and the controversy. He has told me nothing's off the table, that we can talk about that. So if you're here to kind of hear but what about, Glenn? Okay, fair enough. We will talk about the what aboutisms. But you've got to make a decision, I think, red pill, blue pill. Do you want to see what it takes when he hands the pill and says to Neo, do you want to learn, or do you want to just go back to your comfortable life and earn 100 grand a year? Because at some stage there's a decision that you've got to make. Are you ready to kind of take the learnings and the steps to get to a new level in your business and in your career? And if so, you're in the right place. And I'm honored to be kind of just your host, picking the brain of a man who has literally walked the talk of a path that most of us will never achieve, and that's myself included. So what are your thoughts on those averages, mate? That, how many $40,000 earners does it take to bring performers like the aforementioned $1 million performers down to it? Because you're in that average. $10 million is in that average of 100 grand. So it takes a whole lot of substandard performers to bring that average down to that. Yeah.
100%. Look, real estate's the highest paying hard work and the lowest paying no work. Like I deal with a lot of clients, and look, I'll deal with anyone. Like I'm not discriminative. Like a lot of people, when you're an agent, I only want to take stock that's, 2, 3, 4, 5 million. I'm not taking anything that's 500, 600,000. Same thing with a lot of coaches. A lot of coaches sometimes only deal with $1 million agents. I deal with a lot of agents that are just starting. They've become associates. They're an agent day one. They've just broken into a new marketplace. They're new to the country. I'm not discriminative to all of them. I've been in everyone's position. Like you'll see those numbers that are on screen, and look, the numbers are great. The money's great. Like, it's got you had the little graph there where it said disgustingly rich at 1%. Yeah, and that was $1 million. And when you see on that graphic, it said, $10 million. That was $10 million net. That wasn't gross. We're talking gross. My best year was 11.25. I was number one in Australia 6 times. But beyond all the awards and all the bullshit, right? I just really wanted it. Like I had a great mindset. I wanted to be number one. I loved helping people. I was selling, houses at volume in an area where volume was never a thing. No one had ever, in my marketplace, in the west of Sydney, sold above 300 houses. I did over 300 houses 6 years in a row.
Dude, when you showed me that graphic, that it said, and this is the thing that blew my mind, and it's like you couldn't have picked it better when it said, because how the hell do you line it up that it's 365 list and sells in a year, and it happens to be there's 365 I'd have thought you were full of shit if I didn't see that is a realestate.com screen grab. One list and one sell on average per day, every day for a year. That is unheard of.
I'll say this as well. So from the 365 deals that you see in that graphic and that screenshot, to sell 365, I had to list 501 last year.
So there were some that didn't get to settlement.
Of course, 100%. Right. And that's something I want to share on this. Like we're sharing all success and, everything's great and 365 deals. However, I had to list 501 properties. So my list to sell, I roughly sold around 70 to 72%. 20% never came on, and I lost 8% that were on the market with me. It was on the market for 90 days, didn't sell. Another agent picked it up and they sold it. So from a real estate perspective, rejection, loss is a massive part of our industry. It's, I suppose, the people that do really well in real estate have got great goals, a fantastic mindset, a really good plan. But the big thing, it's their ability to handle rejection, negativity, the days being shit, don't make a bad day into a bad week, a bad month. A lot of people who can bounce back that next day. Like the best thing that, I've said this on previous podcasts before, like I'd go on listing sprees, like to list 501 properties in a year. There'd be some days I'd list 5 to 6 with my eyes closed. And to be honest, when I did 501, I probably could have done more. I was in so many doors. My marketing was so aggressive. I wanted it that bad. I showed up every day in the appointment. I was really good at closing. So in terms of, wanting it and getting over rejection, sometimes I'd lose a listing and I think to myself, that's the best thing that's happened. I'd have a reset. I'd say to myself, yep, lost one. Let's go gain 10. And the bounce back was really what made me successful, because I used to lose a lot. To list 501, I probably lost another 300 listings amongst that. I had 95% of whatever came on the market in my core area. I had their details. So I didn't take it personally or offensively that, I've lost business. I used to take it as, yep, I'm not for everybody. My personality might be big and bold and loud and for some people ridiculous, but it worked for me. So I think rejection and handling that and having a mindset of, okay, I've lost one, let's go get 10, will get you a long way. And that got me a long way.
Wow, man. I mean, it even for me, knowing I work with agents who, when they've got 6 listings, start to feel too busy. These numbers do boggle the mind of most of us. But that being said, imagine if we could get, and there are some of us, if we could get 20% of that, then that 20% of 500 listings, 300 sales is still, whatever that is. That's what's 20% of, that's 100 list and sells a year. That's still the dream for most. So
not bad at all. I just saw a little comment in the chat there that said, must have had a great team. Absolutely. I had a fantastic team. Like we had swim lanes as well. And this is a big thing that I'm going to speak about today at the conference as well. Can't get all secrets away, of course, at the moment. But
we're limited by time. You don't get a $10 million business training session in an hour. you know?
100%. Swim
Mm.
lanes are a big thing. So my strengths were listing, selling, vendor communication, and prospecting. I did four things. That's all I did. All of my
Mm.
associates, they took the role heavily. They did open homes, copywriting, the marketing, the structure of things. They prospected heavy as well. I worked 7 days a week. They worked 7 days a week. I think a lot of trainers and a lot of, leaders of EBUs, you could say, or principals or directors of their offices, you're either a selling principal or a non-selling principal. You've got to pick your lane. If you're a non-selling principal, that's fine. You've told your staff. Nothing's worse though than if you're a principal and you're going into the office 3-4 days a week and you're expecting your staff to work 7 days a week. You've got to do something called leading from the front. Now, for
Mm.
me, how did I lead from the front? I was there 7 days a week. I never took a day off. I worked Christmas Day. I had a team that bought into this is the work ethic that's required to do astronomical numbers. And look, that's not for everybody. I don't preach on all of my coaching sessions that they've got to work 7 days and, they got to never see their family and, not have a good time. Don't go out for dinner at 5 o'clock, whatever it is. I don't preach that. For me, though, the goals that I set, this is what I had to do. So I think being a leader, leading from the front, knowing what you're good at, and I used to delegate what I'm not good at. That took me a long way because I knew this is what I had to do. I came in every day with a structure. I had a daily to-do list, and I did it every single day. I never went home and thought, oh, I missed this today. I'd literally sometimes sleep in the office. I'd sleep underneath my desk. I'd fell asleep in my chair, slept in the car park out the front of the office, and I did that for 13 years of selling. I started at 17. I'm now 30 years old, 31 in April, in a month. So I committed my whole life to it, and that's why I did the numbers that I did.
Mm. Mate, and I'm always, when I sort of travel between agents, especially the
Yeah.
ones at a high level,
Yeah.
I see myself as a facilitator when I notice that Matt Steinwade's got something in common with Vivian Yap's got something in common with Chris Gilmore, got something in common with Tom. When there's commonalities between what you guys do, I take note because that's a principle that's universally applicable to high performance. But the
Yep.
fact that you live and breathe real estate, so really hobbies were a non-event. Matt
Non-event.
Steinwade surfs. Sorry,
Yeah.
Matt Steinwade surfs. Chris Gilmore drives Formula One race cars. Vivian Yap is a bit of a socialite, a bit of a So
Yeah.
everyone's got their own thing where you're different. Well, those aren't helpful to our audience because you're all different people. The secret to Matt Steinwade's success, whilst I'm sure it contributes for him, isn't his lifestyle of surfing and health and all of that. Because for everyone who's like Matt with that in mind, there'll be someone who sacrifices that for the success. So the ways you guys are different isn't helpful. But when you guys have something in common, write that down. I say this to my audience, to you guys on listening. And what I just heard from you is exactly the thing I see with those high performers, that you pick your things that you do and you have 6 or 7 people, however many might be in your team. You used the term EBU before, and they
Yep.
do the rest. So let me just pick your brain though on giving some really,
Yep.
really practical from one of your swim lanes
Yep.
in when you said you still do prospecting, because many of the performers, and again even the high performance that I'm
Yep.
alluding to, because that's my only experience, is the high performance through those students of mine that I've mentioned.
Correct.
They get prospecting off their plate early, and you didn't. Maybe that's the secret to the difference between 3 million, 5 million, and 10. But when you say prospecting, maybe even going back to those early years, because you've got coaching clients in their early years,
Yep.
what specifically is the prospecting first step to
Yep.
start to get the listings? And maybe what are the numbers, like how many spoken tos to
Yep.
get an appraisal, how many
Yep.
appraisals to get a listing opportunity? Walk us through prospecting in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on this call that follow my to-do list. So number one is there's never an ideal day. However, you can choose what's in your calendar. So I used to block out my calendar. The first thing was between 9:30 and 11:30 every single morning. That was a non-negotiable period. I'd barely take a sip of water. I wouldn't go to the bathroom. No one was allowed in my office. No one, unless the world was coming to an end or I had a personal issue with family, no one could contact me. All I would do would prospect. Now, everyone always asks, what's the magic pill? How do you prospect? What do you do? I always had the mentality of, you go fishing, you put one rod, you're going to get one fish. You put 10 rods, you're going to get 10 fish. I wanted all the fish in my boat. So how did I do it? I basically did everything. Think of prospecting as an onion. There's not one layer. There's not one way to do it. So first thing, 9:30 to 11:30 every morning for 13 years, I used to cold call. So I used to speak to 20 people a day, not 20. I picked up the phone, they didn't answer. I called them connects. So it was only 20 connects a day, which seems super simple. So 20 connects per day. I used to call people around listings. Withdrawn listings were a massive one. In my first year in sales, which was 2016, I sold 71 solo agent as lead agent. Of those 71, 34 were expired listings that other agents had on the market. It didn't sell. I came in fresh, energetic, new approach, new marketing, and I sold the property as the second or third agent sometimes. So number one was 20 connects a day. Number two, I used to target withdrawn listings. As soon as it expired at the 90-day, I was there. I was known as the person. If it didn't sell, you call Josh. So that was a massive part of my business early on and still was when I was selling. Number three, I used to dominate the print marketing space. A lot of agents these days think they need a fancy DL and they need something that's going to really be eye-catching, and they pick it up out of the letterbox and it's like, oh my God, that's revolutionary. I'm going to call this guy to sell. No, it was the consistency of my name, the brand I was with, my face, and are you thinking of selling? I always had a call to action. So letterbox drops, I used to do 200 a day. When I first started, I had no listings. I had no business. So I used to do more. I used to do 1,000 a day. I used to do 1,500 a day. Mate, I remember my shoes. I used to buy them from whatever I think it was the local store at Westfields. I used to burn through the soles of my shoes. Once a month, I had holes. They were tattered. Mate, like I needed to get new shoes once a month. I went through 14 pairs in my first year in real estate because I was knocking doors. I was doing letterbox drops myself. I had no assistance. It was just me. So I suppose from the non-negotiable blocked out periods, it used to be 9:30, and if you've got no listings, you should be prospecting all day. But between 9:30 and 11:30, I used to cold call. And then midday, if I had vendor work, buyer work, I used to put 2 hours. Now, I always, and a lot of my clients on the call know this, they've got the ideal day that I've put together for them as sort of like a brief. I always put, a lunch break in there for people. I've never taken a lunch break in my life. I've never just had coffee with, one of my staff members and just chatted a little bit of shit and chewed the fat. I didn't believe in that. Yes, we had great culture. Yes, I'd call you on the phone, or if you wanted to ever chat to me, you could just hop in the car and come to an appraisal and we talk on the way there. But from a perspective of wasting time, I never had enough hours in the day. If I could be on a battery and never, be drained of the battery, I would have prospected 24 hours a day. I was known as the person that if your home was above 90 days on the market, I'd be at your house at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'd apologize and say, I'm really sorry, but I had to catch you. I want to help. What does it take? What do I have to do to be your agent? Tell me what I've got to do to represent you. Like I just had this ruthless mentality that if there was a wall and no way around it, I was going straight through it in the most respectful way possible. So in terms of the ideal day, I put a lunch break in there for clients. I never took a lunch break. I used to door knock between 3 and 4. Then I used to eat something. So something just quick. I used to be one thing as well that's underrated. A lot of agents, and I'll say this on the call, a lot of agents have a really poor diet. Like they go to McDonald's, they have KFC, have a burger, and they feel sluggish for the rest of the day. Funny fact, I never ate during the day. I only would have liquids. I'd have water, I'd have a boost juice, I'd never have heavy meals because my fuel, I just didn't want to feel down. And I used to say to myself, I don't want to feel sluggish. So that was a big part of my day. And then literally from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I used to do appraisals or price updates. My daily KPI was only 2. I had to meet 2 people a day. I was working 7 days, so I was doing 14 appraisals every week, sometimes more if I got called in. And then after 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, then I would go and door knock. If they had a do not door knock sticker, I'd respect them and leave a little card. If it didn't, I'd be super respectful and say, look, I know it's late, but I'm here to help. What do I have to do? People were home. People were there, and I used to have a lot of conversations.
Wow, bro. I mean, that's unheard. There's so many things that I noticed you do that have in common with other million-dollar performers. For example, Amber Wershen at 22 years old did $2 million in GCI back in the day. And her thing was 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., don't annoy me time. So you had that in common with Amber. If you wanted to have that shoot the shit sort of thing you just mentioned, it had to be pre 8 a.m. So she'd
Yep.
meet, if her REA rep wanted to meet her, 6 a.m. breakfast, otherwise you don't pitch me on your latest nonsense.
Yep.
Or 9 p.m. we might have supper or something, but 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day.
Yep.
Amazing. And Josh Altman, the great man from
Yeah.
Million Dollar Listing, said the same thing about shoe leather. Wore out shoes on a
Yep.
weekly and a monthly basis. Wore them out. So crazy, crazy time. Man, I tell you, it really does show another level about that. So let me ask you though, now that you're coaching people, and here's one of the
Yep.
things when a player at like when Michael Jordan goes to be a coach,
Yep.
sometimes, and I have seen this when my people, because every speaker at my events, whenever I'd run the Million Dollar Agent Summit or whatever it might be, they're all million dollar performers now dabbling into teaching agents how to do what they did. How do
Correct.
you
Yep.
go when your clients aren't, like, to many people, myself included, that work ethic
Mm.
is, man, even hearing it is crazy.
Yeah.
Actually living that is
Yep.
lunacy. Because I remember Michael Spillane, he got a testimonial from someone about 2 o'clock in the morning work, where he was still up until 2 o'clock in the morning getting a contract for, that sort of lunacy. The
Yep.
consistency of you doing that for so long is beyond most of our wildest dreams. How
Yep.
do you help, and what sort of things do you say to people? Are you able to not judge your students through
Yep.
those eyes of lunacy?
100%. Look, what I did, and what I was prepared to sacrifice, and what I was prepared to give up, you could say. Like, I barely went out. Like, I'm lucky. Like, I'm married. I've got a child. God knows why she's still with me, because she never saw me. Correction, sorry. She did see me. I hired her to be in my business with me. So she used to come to market appraisals. She was coming to market appraisals while she was pregnant, up until like 4 weeks before her due date, 4 to 6 weeks before. She was in appraisals with me. When COVID happened, and obviously, we couldn't really go to many appointments. New South Wales was a little bit more, lax than what Victoria and maybe some other states were. They were a tad more unlucky. It was stricter. But she used to come to all the appointments with me. We used to do the open homes together. I hired my mum so she could work in the office to see me as well. So, it was one of those things where if my mum wanted to see me, it wasn't we go out for dinner. It was you come into my office, have a brief 2-minute discussion, and then that
And
was
we'll
it.
do some work.
And
Jeez.
I'm so sorry. Like we're like the sacrifice that I had. I lost all my 20s. I barely went overseas. My last overseas trip was I did a talk in New Zealand, which was work related, and I listed 4 while I was over there, just over Zoom like this. And then I went to Greece back in 2017, so 9 years ago now, because I was in property management for 2 years, and then I transitioned 11 years in sales out of my 13. So in terms of back to clients, I sit down with them, and the first session that I do with my clients is a goal setting session. It's part of the session 1 of the modules that I do with my peak mentoring business. Now, in that first session, I'll ask them, I'll go, Glenn, what do you want to achieve for the year? What are we talking financially? What are we talking transactionally? What are we talking personally? I want to know what your goals are. Now, the main reason I do that with clients is if they tell me they want to do 365 sales in a year, I've got the method and I've got the work ethic for them to do 365 sales. I don't judge people though, because a lot of people have different goals. Like a lot of people, want to have a family. A lot of people want to only sell 50 a year. A lot of people only want to sell maybe 100 a year. And that's okay. I've got a plan for that as well. I've got the ideal day for my clients, whether or not it's a 5-day a week work ethic, a 6-day, a 7-day, or an all in. Now, I'm yet to meet someone that on a training session says, JT, I want to be just like you. Not many people want to be just like me because they want to have a life, and that's fine. But for me, my life was selling. My life was real estate. My life was being number one. My ultimate goal was to be the youngest to do it. I was the best in my franchise 4 times. I broke every record, number one in Australia 6 times, and I was the youngest to do it. Like I'm only 30 years old. So, and they were my goals. I wanted to do it, and I was, ready to die to do it. Like there'd be so many appointments, and this is just what it took to get to my work ethic. Like I'd go to appointments and I'd have bleeding. Like one appointment, I'll never forget it. It was 47 Lobelia Crescent in Quakers Hill. I go to the appointment. I'm sitting down. We get to the end of the presentation. I said, "Are you happy for me to be your agent?" And then she goes, "Yes, I am." And then my whole body just like shut down, and I had like a bleeding nose. nose, mate. I had a headache. Like I was literally like fainting in the appointment. And then the lady was like, look, I've got to give you the business now. You're about to die in my living room. And I said to her, you bet I am. And that was just what it took. Like sometimes when you're pushing your body to that limit and sleeping 4 to 5 hours, like it wasn't the healthiest way to live. You could say I was eating good, but like the sleep was one thing and the stress was another. But that's the limit and that's the level that I wanted to get to. I wanted to be the best ever, wanted to break every record there is. And that comes with pros and cons. Like when you're very well known and you're number one and you've got, you're speaking at REIQ and you're speaking overseas and you're doing stuff like this on podcasts and you know a lot of people, blessing and a curse at the same time with anything.
Sure.
Which we'll get into. But from a level of like when I meet clients, I have no discrimination to people that want to only sell 50 a year. No discrimination for people that want to do 20 a year. I've got a plan for that as well. And I always ask them, what are your personal goals? Do you want to have a family? And I'm not, some person that's gonna, keep them accountable to that level. But I'm big on vision boards. Like right now, I've got vision boards in front of me. I've got vision boards on my phone. I've got them on my laptop. Like if you say something, you walk the walk. You got to talk the talk. Like if you want to own a Lamborghini, you got to do the work ethic to have a Lamborghini. You want to build a granny flat. You want to upgrade your house. You want to upgrade your car. Whatever it is, whatever motivates you, I'll give you a plan to do it. I suppose the good and the bad of being a coach, it's super rewarding when people achieve their goals. Like I deal with a lot of agents, like the number one agent in Hobart, the number two agent in Queensland, number three agent in Melbourne, so many number ones within their own networks as well. And when they achieve things, it's like, man, I feel like I contributed. Sometimes it's disappointment as well. Sometimes it's like you sort of father them and they're almost like your kids and you tell them to do something. I mean, they send their weekly stats every week and I did 2 appraisals, I worked 3 days. And I said, well, with all due respect, I'm not going to hold back from constructive criticism. If you want to write $1 million at the end of the year, but you're working 2 days a week, not hitting your KPIs of 20 connects a day, 200 letterbox drops, 2 appraisals a week, not doing your weekly updates on Facebook, Instagram, and social media. I said, if you're not doing the things that I've given you, then this is a waste of both of our time. And I had a client like that the other month, with all due respect. He goes, I can't do this. I want to sell less and, I can't afford the training. And I said, I've got people like one guy overseas, he literally, new agent from Canada, great guy, his name's Victor. He literally does Uber at night times between 9 o'clock to 3 a.m. so he can afford the training sessions with me. There's no excuse. If you want to get to number one, there is no excuse. So yeah, not discriminative, but if people just listen to the plan when they've got a problem, like my phone now, I've got 4 of my clients saying, hey, JT, call me, just listed one. I got another form 6, like that type of stuff. I love sharing in the joy with them. And when I was a principal as well, I had agents that were writing 150, 200 grand that went on to write $2 million. I had agents that barely spoke English, dropped out in year 9, went to write $1.5 million with me in a 3-year period, from an associate to a standalone agent to an associate director position that I gave them. So I love seeing the journey, but when you're a mentor and a coach, like we can give you the source, I can give you the scripts, I can give you the KPIs, you've got to want to do it. I'll push you, but you got to want to do it. So I take everyone on. I love helping everyone. I'll give everyone a chance. But you got to want it as much as, you want to do it.
I've been accused historically. I remember Michael Spillane, great agent up in Queensland. He's, in fact, I've known him for a long time. I've known him since I was in my 20s with him. And he once said to me and accused me, in a good way, of course, of, mate, because he said, I heard him say it to someone else and I asked him about it. He said, yeah, he used to say to everyone, Glenn Twiddle wants you to succeed more than you do.
Correct.
And that does hurt too. I love that you mentioned how much it hurts because I'll always ask them what they want, and like, as you're saying, and I love that that's something we've got in common. Because I remember once we had a lady who just was about to pip $1 million, maybe just under, I think best year was 900 odd. And she decided she didn't want to pay the price to do that. Eased it back to a work-life balance that she liked, doing a nice 400 gross. So in her structure, that was about 300 to her.
Yeah.
And was a wonderful mum and made that choice. And that's just amazing. And certainly as a coach, because that's sort of where I've gotten my best success, never as the player. But as a coach, my clients chipped in a few years back now and bought me a Harley Davidson on top of the money they paid me. They bought me a $30,000 birthday present. So, Gilmore and Steinway and all these guys, a dozen of them or so, got together in secret and bought me a $30,000. Man, My family who love me don't buy me $30,000 Harley Davidsons for my birthday. So
Oh,
what
look,
a
I'm new to the coaching game, mate. But I'll update you if I get,
yeah.
I can't ride bikes, but you never know. But yeah, like it's super rewarding when they do well.
Mm,
I just want honesty with clients, and if they're investing in something, I want it to be of value. Sometimes I'm up late at night thinking, oh, how do I get this person to the next level? What they're doing is not working. I'm forming new plans for them. And I've always said I've always loved other people's success more than my own.
mm.
Always, my whole career. I would have loved one of my agents to, beat me in a month of listings or write,
Wow.
my best month was 1,208,000 in a 30-day period or 28-day period. I'd love another agent in my office to write more than that. Like my success, I loved the feeling of helping people. I loved the feeling of giving them, the structure, the process, the dialogue, how to do it, the blueprint, you could call it, and them running away with it and genuinely saying, "Hey, JT, this has worked. I'm so thankful." Like when I used to get up on stage, and I've been, as I said, on every stage there is REA, Rate My Agent, within my own network, whatever it is.
Man, I wish I knew you because that was the one stage we never got you onto, brother, and that was mine. We had
Uh,
AB a couple of times, but at
yeah,
some stage, because I haven't done an
yeah.
event since COVID. So
Oh, there you go.
really, you were
Wow.
getting to your numbers when I
Yeah,
was, because yeah, you can imagine what COVID did to the seminar industry, at least.
yeah, hard.
Eric kept going, credit to him, but
Yeah.
boy, oh boy, did it throw a spanner in the works there. But no,
Of course,
agreed, brother, and I. Mm,
it was back to just what I was saying. It was way more rewarding seeing a staff member of mine go up and get an award than my own. Like when I won
yeah.
number one that first time, that was my dream. Like I wanted to win it. I was just a kid working at a boutique agency with no branding at all, that nobody knew, in a suburb that no one had heard of before, unless you lived in the west of Sydney, being Quakers Hill. And I went from Quakers Hill in an average sale price area when I was there between 650 and 700, and I took it to the fucking moon, and I became the number one agent, not only in that suburb, but the whole of the country. We used to joke and say, the whole of the fucking world. And, from an area where it was, no one knew what it was.
Yeah.
And, I felt great on stage, but, I felt a lot more happiness when a staff member would go and win a small suburb award, or they were top 10 New South Wales, or Rate My Agent, they got top 5. I had so much more happiness for them than my own. So, yeah, the coaching space, it's similar.
Brother, I tell you, you're singing you're telling my life, because I tell you that to the extreme. I remember when I was a principal licensee,
Yep.
and I helped a guy get a sale that he was about to give up on. He had a seller won't accept a penny less, buyer won't accept a penny more. And we sat down for like half an hour, and we role played how to present that offer to the seller,
Yep.
because the buyer was maxed out. So it's essentially the seller accepts it or it ain't on.
Yep.
And we went and so we role played. We got his intonation right. We got his tonality right. And I remember,
Yep.
I was saying to him, okay, so now the option that you don't want, end it with upward tonality. So it sounds like a question, like I'm doing there. And the one you want them to do, downward command tonality. So we can go back to the market, or you can, invest some more money in marketing, and we can have another crack at it. It's possible, but unlike everything with upward tonality, it's a question. And then, or you could seriously consider this offer, because
Yep.
this is it. So downward tonality, command tonality. So we really went through that in that level of nuance and detail till we got it right. And I tell you, he was about to walk away and earn nothing. When
Yep.
he came back, he earned $8,000. My overrider at the time was $400, right? I
Wow.
was on a 5% overrider. So
Yep.
he earned 8,000, I earned 400. And
Yep.
I was more satisfied with $400 helping him than if I'd have earned the $8,000.
Yep.
And that was
Oh,
the
yeah.
day I knew coaching was for me. That was
Yeah,
the
man.
day.
100%. I'm
Yeah.
with
So, bro, I've been put to this, and I hate it given this so freaking positive, to
you.
ask you, and mate, you're so positive, you've probably got a way to frame this in the positive. Can you
Yeah.
talk to us about the shit that's going? Because again, I don't even know too much about it. So I'm going to ask you, what is the controversy? What led to it? And give us the details, I suppose, because the one thing I saw, and let me give you sort of some context from mine. And it was at this time I said to Naomi, my business partner, I said to anyone who was talking about it to me, I said, I just wish Josh was a client of mine for 10 years or 5 years or whatever, because I've had agents when there has been a complaint put up on them online. One just happened not so long back about Naomi herself. And she's only a part-time real estate agent. Like, she's still my general manager. She still
Right.
works in my business, has done so for 12 years. She does 5 to 10 hours listing and selling real estate every week.
Yep.
She is amazing. She only takes on one or two clients at any one time, does 200,000 or 300,000 in GCI in 5 hours a week. Wonderful agent. She had someone bitch about her online
Yep.
on one of her ads. And then her clients, unprovoked, and here's the other thing, there are strategies to encourage that a little bit and maybe send some of your fans to do this, but there was no even provocation from her where her clients jumped on that thread and were defending her like a tigress defends cubs. Like, her clients were defending Naomi, saying that that person, saying all real estate agents are scumbags, right? And then the clients jumped on and said, hell no, she's the greatest human alive, blah, blah, blah. Multiple. And it was unprovoked. So when I saw a pylon on one of the media threads where there was a negative comment from the media, and then there was a pylon of consumers adding fuel to the fire. And I was sitting there thinking, God damn it, I wish Josh was a client of mine, because he would have people leaping to his defense as opposed to jumping on and adding logs to the fire. So that's my only experience with the what's gone on with yourself. You, of course, know exactly what's gone on, and other people have said to even me, how dare you do a webinar with Josh? I'm like, Jesus Christ, can we hear that man's side of the story, please, before we condemn? So can we, mate, I apologize for going on so much. I wanted to give you some context about where I'm at in terms of that. And what say you, good sir?
100%. Look, a lot of people who may, and I've had negativity all throughout my career. Like, when I first started, everyone said, Josh, he's only 21 years of age. He doesn't have experience. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then when interest rates were going up, I was selling a lot of properties. They weren't for suburb records. The market was tough. You don't get $400,000 during a period when the market's tougher. I'd be selling a whole lot of properties, and then people would say, oh, he's underselling properties. And then I'd sell them for ridiculous amounts during COVID when the market was really good. It's funny, you lock people up and then people just go bananas and buy houses. And then people go, oh my God, he's overselling. There's no way, buyers are paying this. He's just lucky because COVID's there. You can spin any story you want. Like, if you look at Michael Jordan as not an example to me, but an example, like you look at MJ's career, people can look at Michael Jordan and say the best ever. He won 6 NBA rings. He was the MVP. He's Michael Jordan, man. Like, he's the GOAT ever. He won 3 and 3. He was a part of, if you watch The Last Dance, that documentary. But you can also look at Michael Jordan and say super successful. But you can look at Michael Jordan and say he had betting scandals. He had betting allegations. There's conspiracy around when his dad got killed. And if you watch The Last Dance, you can look at Michael Jordan two ways. A lot of people can look at me two ways. Super successful, or, oh no, he does the wrong thing, he's selling that much volume. They read online comments on Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, whatever it is. It's unfortunate. And I've got a lot of clients that are from New Zealand, America, overseas, London. A lot of my clients are overseas in Britain and the UK. Australia's got something called tall poppy syndrome. And it's super unfortunate. But in this industry, especially sales, because we're not very, liked human beings, because maybe we earn a lot of money and drive, cars and wear fancy suits and just come off as people that are greasy and not necessarily trustworthy. When you're going really well, and things are really good and the poppy's really tall, a lot of people try and cut you down. Now, is there a media agenda? Maybe. You can read so many articles on so many things. How I sleep well at night. If you had a look at my realestate.com profile, I had over 1,000 reviews from happy customers. They're not fake reviews. Google is all bullshit. You look at realestate.com, you have to be a user. You have to have bought or sold a property through, the agent to write a verified review that's real. I had over 1,000 on realestate.com. On Rate My Agent, I had over 2,400 positive reviews in my 13-year career from people that were happy. Now, just like you, Glenn, if you have clients that you've got 100% satisfaction, that's impossible. Yep. Like, whether you're selling cars, pens, training systems, or you're selling houses, not everyone is going to be happy. And that's just a way of the world, especially when you're doing a higher volume. You're going to have some people that are disgruntled. So at the end of the day, mate, Fair Trading's done what they've done. They issued one suspension for 4 months. Now, I'll say this. These are alleged charges. These are, when I say charges, this isn't criminal at all. This is, within the fair trading business stock and the act. So from a, first suspension point of view, they gave me a chance to respond, which I did. I had that 4 months to respond. That happened. And then when I was supposed to have a determination of where they wanted to take it, whether they wanted to ban or they wanted to do the next step, whatever it is, they didn't do that. They banned again and suspended for another 4 months on more alleged charges, which I have responded to. So yeah, look, the regulator's a little bit questionable these days. You see a lot of articles on Facebook, Google, they're suspending a lot of people. One of my competitors in my marketplace, he got suspended. Now, there's a variety of things which they can suspend you for. I will proudly say there has been zero trust deficiencies or issues. And in the past, anyone who took from the trust was banned. You're out of the industry. There's zero trust, fraud or zero. No one's ever taken money. I've got the cleanest account in the world. So yeah, from an allegations perspective, coming from people that are not trustworthy, coming from sources that really lack credibility and evidence. I can't get into too much, of course, because I've submitted all my stuff, and it's between us and the regulator. But yeah, look, the truth will come out in full as time goes on. But you know what? Destinations lead you to really good paths, mate. And, on this path that I've got now, I don't need to ever work again. I'm financially extremely stable. In my 13 years, I invested well. I never did drugs, never even drank alcohol 99% of the time. I bought investments. I was super smart with my stocks. So financially, I don't have to work ever again for the rest of my life. I want to work. I want to continue helping people. And if it's not selling houses, it's certainly going to be mentoring people to be better in any sales profession where I've got a high level of skill that I can pass on. So yeah, as I said, you can choose two ways in life. It's either glass half full or glass half empty. You can look at the glass half full and go, he's very successful. Yeah, there's a bit of media. Who doesn't have negativity? If any regulator went into your office, Glenn, and took, let's say, example, 500 files, they're going to find something on you, mate.
Yeah, I agree. What is the thing they talked about? Well, it was during the Trump craziness and all that. They said, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Yep. Like if they look through any of us, they'll find some things to be critical.
I'll say this. It's from a when your business is very infant. Now, did I think that I was ever going to get to a business where we'd be recognized as the #1 office in Australia, or get to the level of business where I was really happy with doing 300 as an office? All of a sudden, my office exploded. Year 1, we did 560 sales. Year 2, we did 672. Year 3, we did 752. Year 4, we did over 800 sales in one office in the Western Sydney suburbs of Sydney. I did not think it was going to get that big and amplify that much, and we were going to have that many transactions. So from a supervision perspective, when you're running very hard and you're running very fast, and I've said this many times, before I was prompted by anyone, I sat down with my wife and my mum, and I remember my lawyer at the time, and I got a fantastic legal team. Props to them. We're really looking forward to all of this coming out publicly. Lisa Jemison, David Pritchard, senior counsel, Phil English. I've got great legal teams and professionals that are working on this, that are shocked by all of this. But that'll be in future. It'll be told. I've got a really good book deal as well. I signed a book deal the other day, so it's going to come out in full. I got a US publisher overseas. Mate, the book's going to be wild. Like, I can't wait to tell my side and the truth. But in terms of, as I said, when people, if they came into your office, they would find an issue. There's absolutely no problem at all. That's just the nature of the game that we're in terms of if regulators or anyone that's supervising you wants to find something, they will. But I think it was 2022, I sat down and I was like, this is getting too much. The paperwork side of things, the supervision part of things, I'm listing and selling 300 now on my own. I physically cannot do it. So unprompted, this is without someone telling me to do it or any suspension handed down to me, I hired a full licensee in charge, someone who looks after compliance, someone who's from a supervision perspective looked after it all. And it's funny, files, and the allegations, Glenn, this is from 4 to 5 years ago. Like, this isn't 2025. This isn't 2024. All the, underquoting, you could call it, which is, a term in itself that's different.
Yeah, I was going to ask you finish your thought, but make sure we come back to exactly because I don't even know what is what. Okay, no, while we're here, just clue me up. So this is happening in 2020 and 5 years ago, etc. Because you mentioned before, you've got where you appraise, here's where we appraise. Yep. Because we are constantly in our marketing saying seller's dream price is 700,000. We got $100,000 more, $150,000 over that because of the nature of, okay, sure, our skill. We market well, so we get a lot of interest. Then we negotiate well, so we get the price to the highest possible price we can. But if that ends up being ridiculously over what the comparables tell us, is that by definition what they're accusing you of with this underquoting? Is that what it is?
Super grey area, man. Like in Queensland, they can do offers over, but they can't give a price guide for auction. With us here, we can't do offers over, but we can give something called an auction guide. As I said, the files which they're investigating are pre-Paul Mylott era. Paul was the licensee that I put in charge. Our files with Paul are absolutely clean as day. Before, did things get missed? Like any business that's running too hard. Of course they do. But that was from 2020, 21, 22. This is pre-Paul, which was, Paul's been in my business for over 3 years now, and he's been absolutely amazing. And he took a big, load off my shoulders, essentially. So underquoting. Okay, I'll explain what underquoting is in the simplest way. In New South Wales, we've got an agency agreement. Let's say that the home, based on comparables, our opinion as the agent is between 1 million to 1.1, and then a guide comes up online as 800,000. That's underquoting from the agency agreement. And let's say the vendor's instructions, if we're quoting a guide of 800 and the vendor's instructions are, Glenn, I want $1 million, then essentially they've given us instructions that we're advertising it below. So the stuff that we were being accused of was, we put a price guide and then we would send a revision form. So how do you do a revision form? You've got a revision form based on buyer feedback. If you have an open home and we have 10 people, the price guide's $1 million. And all the feedback is 900 to 950, our job as agents is we have to adjust the estimate of selling price because the market, it's not a reasonable selling price based on the market. And if comparable sales, if we're marketing at $1 million and then all of a sudden all the feedback and next door sells for 800,000, the market changes. Now, during this period of, investigation, from 2000 to 2001, 22, and just before 23, everyone's forgetting, like the market was changing rapidly. Interest rates went up it was monthly, 0.25, 0.5 basis points. The market was changing so rapidly, and we had to adjust with the market. Sometimes houses were selling at 1.1 that were selling for 950.
Yep. And sometimes, and COVID during that 5-year period, like that's the thing, we've had countervailing forces. We had a COVID boom. Correct. Everywhere except some suburbs of Melbourne doubled in some cases. And then we had 12 interest rate rises there was some downward pressure on pricing. So trying to accurately, within a 5% margin, like you're talking about, 1 million to 900 and 950, would be ludicrous for anyone to think they could accurately predict anything. Is that a disclosure from you based on the feedback to your seller? Is that what you're talking about with this adjustment? It's a agent-seller dynamic? Or agent market and agent buyers?
The estimated selling price. Now we've got agents have got to, in New South Wales, regularly review the sale price. But there was a time there where weekly we had to review it. So every single week we'd sit in a sales meeting and say, okay, 0 people to the open home. We did seven. We in my office, we used to open properties every day. So we had open homes 7 days a week for a property. So if you were selling with us, if we had a 21-day campaign, you'd show the house 21 times. We wanted to leave no stone unturned. And I had people that could run opens between 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week within my team. So from if we had, 7 days of open homes, Glenn, and 0 people came or 10 people came and they thought the price guide was way too high, comparable sales were less. Us as agents, we've got to be upfront with the seller and say 10 people came. This is what you want, but this is what it's worth based on buyer feedback. There's 3 opinions on price. Agent, and we're allowed a 10% range within New South Wales. You've got the owner and then you've got the buyer. So yes, we can give you comparable sales, but when the market's on the up, How could you predict that something's going to sell 500,000 above?
Can't
When the
be done.
market's on the
I
low,
can't
we've got
believe
to
those rules, man.
sell.
They're ludicrous. That is ludicrous.
Yep.
25 years experience I've got, and I'm glad you've got Adrian Bowe in your corner, and I can't wait. I'm going to do another one of these with Adrian, right? And
Good.
we'll do one with him maybe in a week's time or something,
Yeah.
because it's his skill set is the only hope you've got. With the
Yep.
way he uses that pragmatic approach based on buyer feedback, based on all of those things. I love his approach with regards to that, where, when we're aiming for this much buyer inquiry, that means X, that means Y, or whatever. Without that, I tell you, I'm going to say this straight up front. With my skill set when I was listing and selling and my entire team, we would have been in far more trouble, because how the hell can you tell within a 10% margin of error anything? Especially when there's this going on. It's crazy.
Mate, during a campaign, as I said, where with some campaigns over 3 months, the interest rate would change 3 times. It was an extremely tricky period. Now, we're not registered valuers. Real estate agents are marketers, negotiators, and communicators. Yes, we can give you an idea on price, but the market sets the market, not
an excellent
us.
point. It's exactly the point.
We're not here, Glenn, to tell you Thursday when the Powerball's coming that it's going to be, all the 10 numbers for fucking Powerball. We're going to give you an indication based on experience. We're going to give you evidence based on comparable sales, but every property has got a different value to the market. Sometimes it's bang on, sometimes it's less or more. We're not registered valuers, and even valuers are wrong sometimes. So our job is to market the property, bring the best offer to the seller, communicate what the market's saying, and give a professional recommendation. And that's what I did my whole career. And it's funny, people can say whatever they want. Oh, people are unhappy with Josh. That's funny, because realestate.com was based on numbers and I was number one. Within my network was based on how much you earned and based on auctions and based on NPS score, which is happiness a client. I was number one. And Rate My Agent, which ranks you based on customer experience. You don't win Rate My Agent unless you give the best customer experience. It's not who sells the most, it's who has the best. They call it ratio. So if you sell 100 and you have 90 reviews, you've got a 90% ratio. I was 6 times number one in a row on a customer rating website. This wasn't an award like REB where you've got to put your submission in for yourself and give them your numbers. I never went on REB, never submitted for REB because I felt like it was just dishonest and didn't align with me. Whereas Rate My Agent did. It was happy customers. You won based on merit, and that's what I did 6 times in a row. So yeah, as I said, you can look at the glass half empty or glass half full. If people want to hate on you, Glenn, they could say, I hate Glenn Twiddle. He's this.
Oh, and they do.
And there'll be a lot of people that are raving fans. And I will say, if there's some people on here that have supported me, I get messages daily from people. If you read my Instagram, people message me daily. Miss you, JT. Hope you're well. The market's not the same. The industry's not the same. Past clients have all reached out, all because they're not messaging publicly on, Reddit with all those crazy anonymous forums. And me and Bowie laugh all the time. All these people are so tough online. Not one person said anything to my face. Not one person would actually come and start swearing and saying all this stuff to my face. And it wouldn't be an aggressive conversation, but it would be a lot of people are very tough behind the phone and the screen, but face to face will just walk the other way. So you've got something to say and you've got an opinion, you've never met me before, say it to my face, we can chat about it, but highly doubt that'll happen.
Yeah, mate. Tell me this, because we worked in different legislative environments. I in Queensland, you in New South Wales.
Very different.
Let me ask you this, because I just want to make the point. Now, the numbers are ridiculously low. It was a $200,000 sale. I was selling for my grandma's deceased estate. So the vendors were my family, right?
Yep.
I had in my head, it was a $200,000 plus buyers should inspect, where we were asking 220, and our price guide on realestate.com was $200,000 plus buyers should inspect.
Yeah.
I very quickly got 228,000.
Yep.
228,000. And so conditional, and that's where we were at. So in my head, ratified was that, we're about right. Early 200s, 220, got 228 or whatever. Then another buyer came along and said, I won't be able to pay any more than 200. So I just said, having the fact that we sold to the first, the first open for 228, I just thought, don't worry about the 200. Forget it. I'll keep my eyes out for you, which I never did. And then here's what happened. The 228 fell over on finance. I went back to the 200. They'd bought elsewhere in the coming weeks, right? 2 months later, I sold for 180. Now, the reason that I think that might be instructional for you, I want you to tell me with your experience what I've done wrong. Now, I know
Yep.
what I did wrong. I should have signed up the 200. I should have bumped
Yep.
it up as best I can to 205 and had it
Yep.
conditional upon the 228 falling over. That's
Correct.
my thing that I wanted to do better. But
Yep.
from a underquoting, overquoting perspective, what
Mhm.
did I do wrong, knowing that it wasn't malicious, because it's my own family, my own parents who are the
Yeah.
beneficiary of this? But 10% lower than this 200 plus is what it eventually sold for.
Yep.
I thought 10% higher. So tell me, because I'm telling you, that is every real estate agent in the country has probably had something where they've got it wrong by those sorts of
Heaps.
margins.
Hey, I'll be the
So,
first person. So
but
what
legislative, what did I do wrong?
if you were in New South Wales there, Glenn, and you were advertising a property of 200,000 and you had an offer of 228,000, you had to revise your price guide up to 228,000.
But if I don't know that until I get the 228,000
Correct.
in that
Yep.
negotiation,
Yep.
how would I have been guilty of underquoting?
If they had an offer in writing of 228,000 and it was submitted to the owner and the owner rejected it or the owner accepted it and you still displayed a guide of 200,000, you were underquoting.
Wow. So, but all of this happened in a day.
Absolutely. Everything changed. I remember back in 2020, I had Fair Trading write me an email and they go, oh, we want to ask some questions about a sale. This is before I even knew what an estimated selling price was because I came from an agency where like revising the estimate, all we needed was a text message from the owner to say, hey, Josh, change the price guide. I'm willing to take X amount. That was enough for the file.
Yeah.
That all changed. Legislation changed. So all of a sudden, I had a property. It was in Stanhope Gardens. I remember it vividly. 3 Huon Close. We had a guide of, I think it was 800. And I had instructions. It was actually a court proceeding. So the vendor, went to court and whatever. And I was instructed to sell it by the courts. Anyway, the courts wrote me an email and said, hi, Josh, we've changed our estimate based on market value. We're happy to change the price guide to 800 and accept 800,000. Anyway, Fair Trading inquired. I sent them the email and they go, well, you didn't fill it out on the official revision form. So technically you were underquoting. Despite me having vendor's instructions, it wasn't filled out because our agency agreement price was X and we were quoting less because we had instructions from the vendor in email, but they said that wasn't enough. You needed to do it on our official form, which we didn't do. So we copped a $2,200 fine. That was back in 2020.
Wow, man, I tell you, man, look, all I can say is fucking hell. I'm A, glad I don't listen sell in New South Wales, but B, look, that's me being so selfish that I've got clients in New South Wales. Like I've got,
Yep.
again, now new friends in like yourself, Josh, like that is,
And I'll tell you
I
this as
can't
well.
believe it. Like,
You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Because if we put a price guide that's too high, people go, oh, that's overpriced. I mean, the
yeah,
price
well,
guide
technically I did. Like I was thinking 220. It ended
Yeah.
up selling for 180. So I actually
Overquoted.
overquoted
Yep.
and underquoted in the same
Yep.
goddamn.
You've overquoted, underquoted, and the media could pick that up and say Glenn Twiddle has underquoted over. Like there's so many stories that people, and as I said earlier in the call, there's been over, I think, like 5 to 10 agents that if you really look on their name and shame website, that they've banned or suspended or have had trust fraud, but you don't see them on Daily Telegraph, Sydney Morning Herald, Reddit, A Current Affair, News.com, MSN, Facebook, Reddit, Threads. They're not spoken about. The reason why me being so high profile, people know who I am, know my name, and I'm the easiest person to take out. All my clients have said, ever since it happened to me, like they're just shit scared to even put a price guide. But once again, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You don't put a price guide. You're one of those agents that, oh, they don't display a price. I hate them. You put a price guide too high. It's too high. I hate them. It's too low. He's underquoting. I hate them. There's
And
just
to get it
no
bang
way
on
you
right
can.
is impossible. I'm going to say, and
Well,
don't they say in the law that like you talked about the difference between a valuer and a real estate agent, given that
Yep.
we have not done the training, there is no way a valuer gets this right. And you even talk about the courts. I have seen the courts just sell these things off at a fire sale at
Yep.
whatever. I don't know, man. This is doing my head in a little bit. Jesus
Yep.
Christ, you poor bastard, mate. Go through all this with a smile on your face, mate. As much as there's all that shit out there, it is a credit to your attitude, man.
Oh,
It's
you know what? Look, I've been through a lot in my life, just, growing up and sort of my upbringing and stuff. So I'm tough as nails. No one can break me. I've created a multi-million dollar business with my mentoring. I've got so many clients. I'm doing 80 to 100 sessions per month with paying clients. We do this little stuff for free just because, love talking to you, mate. We're cut from the same cloth and we have a good laugh and we can give some energy to people and maybe, within our agent community can make everyone feel like they're not just singular, they're not just going through this alone. Like we're all going through this minefield of this industry that we're in, especially during change and legislation. But yeah, mate, as I said, I can never be put down. I love working. I love talking to people. I love helping people. And my systems work. The conference is going to be amazing. We've got so many good speakers as well. We've got you, mate. We're all talking about something different. We've got Bowie. We got, Emil Jurassic in Queensland. We've got Zed Nasheed. We've got 2 ladies panels. We've got a Young Guns panel. We've got the #1 broker in Australia, Bernard Desmond, #1 auctioneer in Australia from REB recently, Richard Bainey. We've got so many superstar speakers. It's not a 2-3 day event. It's a 9 to 5 event. We've got a great after party afterwards where we'll celebrate and have a good time. But really looking forward to giving back. As you know, mate, conferences, you don't make a hell of a lot of money. This wasn't a money grab. Trust me. We would have saved money, the amount we've spent on the venue and what everyone's going to get. We would have saved money doing this online. But we wanted to do an in-person. There's a lot of my clients that are coming from overseas that I haven't even met physically yet that I can't wait to meet. It's going to be like a meet and greet. So yeah, really looking forward to the conference, which is, what are we talking? It's on Tuesday, 2 weeks. Yep, 2 weeks, 15 days, two on the 24th. And there's still tickets available. We've got a couple we've sold out from our regular section, but there's a couple of sections that we've got at the back with discounted tickets. So if anyone wants those, let me know. Send me a message, send a message. But mate, as I said, going through so much at 30 years of age. I was the youngest business owner in Ray White at 23. 24 I turned when I opened it officially. So mate, I've been through it all. Can't be put down.
amazing, bro.
And just love what I do. Love that I can help people still in another capacity.
Yeah, I love it, bro. So if you do Google the Bo Tesolin conference, it is
Yes.
boteslinconference.com.
Yep.
Come along. You won't be doing yourself a disservice. Again, I can only speak to the only people I know on there and their skill set is Adrian and Josh.
Yep.
The rest by reputation. But I tell you, Adrian and Josh's skill with the complementary skill set. So I'm going to spend some of my greatest hits on marketing to get attention, to get you known by a local community so that they call you in. That's going to be my greatest hits. And that's coming from someone who has generated personally. So I'm talking about me getting you to the kitchen table. I and my company since COVID have just been generating appraisals for clients. And I've generated over 20,000 appraisals in the last 12 months, my company. And then I sell those 20,000 appraisals to you guys, basically at what it cost me to do, because it's not a highly profitable part of my business, but I own a lead generating business where and Josh was saying to me yesterday, man, if I'm back in the game, I'm getting your callers. I want 2 or 3 callers full time, 24/7, 7 days. I'm like, okay, brother, I'm there for you. So that's what you're going to get from me. How to get to the kitchen table. Then with Adrian, you're going to get how to take it from the kitchen table listing opportunity to the sale and to the listing and then to the sale in an amazing, logical, pragmatic system, the likes of which I've never seen. It's why I've had a 10-year relationship with Adrian and an admiration of his skill set. I was honored that Adrian brought me down to his office to teach his guys my skill set, because believe me, when I knew of his skill set, I got him to return the favor for me and my coaching students. And now that I see Josh as that practitioner implementing both those skills, and we didn't even get a chance to talk today, so we'll talk about that at the conference in further things, where Josh has sort of got the prospecting and the pragmatic and the traditional real estate skills in line with an Adrian Bo kind of thing, but then he's got the marketing chops, and this is what we didn't even talk about, Josh, you spending the money on marketing so that you've got both prospecting and marketing, because many of my students don't prospect anymore. It's just marketing to get to the kitchen table, and then they take it from there. You're the best of both worlds. You're that practitioner in the middle. So what a combo these people coming to the conference are going to get.
It's going to be great. A snapshot of my talk, and I'm still sort of putting it together and tweaking it. I've got a super cool text message system. I've got the accountability templates. I've got the daily to-do list. I've got my marketing. I've got the boost that I used to use, the algorithm that I used to press to be in front of people locally. I've got all prospecting methods that I've used throughout my career. I've got, heaps of little one percenters that go a long way, how to get reviews, how to boost your profile, how to be well known within the community. So it's basically a condensed version. Closing as well is a big thing. Objection handling. What do you say to someone, Glenn, when they go, I want to think about it. I'm not signing anything today. I've got another agent coming in. I've heard negative things about you. Objection handling is a massive part of real estate, because if you're just, I'll let you know tomorrow, no problem, let me know, instead of, Glenn, what's holding you back for me to be your agent? I've decided I want to work with you. What do I have to do to get your business? Like, there's so many closing techniques, which I've learned in the living room myself, that I'll be passing on at the Bo Tesolin conference.
Mate, it's going to be a killer, mate. I'm honoured that you put me on the list to come and hang with you and your people, mate. It'll be giving everything we can. And I do notice in the chat here, we still never got Adrian on, so I'm going to do one with Adrian. I can do the same sort of thing, maybe in a week's time. But thanks for you guys jumping on. I see Mark Cheney down there. I love Mark. Mark's up in Caboolture, similar socioeconomic area to yourself in the western suburbs of Sydney. Okay. So Caboolture's kind of like a Rudy Hill of kind of, or at least it used to be. Now it's actually got a really a much elevated. And Nicole Bragg's there from up in Cairns. So, some of my friends are on. I hope you got a lot out of this, everyone. So if you can get yourself down to Sydney in a couple of weeks, you're doing yourself a favour to hang out with Josh. And thank you, man, for, going into so much detail about the pain of what you're being subjected to. And, I know there's still going to be some people that are on the fence saying, oh, well, maybe they've got a point, maybe they don't, or whatever. But, mate, it's hard to argue with, the happy client reviews that are on there.
Yep.
And yeah, like you say, I remember once, mate, when Eric Thomas, right, E.T., he's a motivational speaker from America. And when I saw some of the hate leveled at that man, I'm telling you, man, I am no saint. I am no angel, mate. I am a very imperfect human, right? Yep. I've never made claims to be anything other than a bogan from Ipswich who's done everything bad. If my life was judged through the lens of today's social media, I would be in trouble. Cancelled. In my 30 years of history. Well and truly cancelled every time. When I saw Eric Thomas, who is the closest thing to a saint that I have ever met, when I saw that he had haters, I thought there is no hope for the world. There is no hope that, so I do try and maintain some sort of positive outlook about everything like that. I know not everyone will do that, but mate, I thank you for bearing the scrutiny even here today to say, man, what the hell are they saying about you? And is there any validity to it? Mate, I thank you, man, because that ain't fun for us positive people. And for you to be living it, it's kind of crazy, brother. So
we go again, brother. Haters are motivators. We got great people that love us, and I'll gravitate towards the positivity in the world, not the negative. Glass half full always.
Beautiful. Actually, isn't it funny? You mentioned Jordan before. He invited the people, because what he had to do, and again, The Last Dance, do have a look at it.
Yes.
And sometimes it was only in his head that he made up shit in his head so he could hate them back.
Yeah, man.
So he could motivate himself. And then he dragged him to his Hall of Fame induction speech, sat him in the front row, and genuinely from the heart thanked them for what they forced him to become.
Oh, mate, all the free promotion that the Sydney Morning Herald, Daily Telegraph, A Current Affair are giving my mentoring business has been fantastic. So any journalist that may be watching this, please keep plugging Peak Mentoring, because it's getting a whole new pool of clients. So I appreciate the plugs. Thank you.
Mate, incredible, brother. All right, my man. Thank you. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And
Take care, brother.
Mate, you're the best. Thanks, Josh.
Talk to you soon. Ciao, brother.
Later, my man.